Hello again, and welcome back to another episode of The Spirits of Independence. My name is Thomas Watson, and this is my good friend and travel companion, Bob Moldenhauer. When our last show ended, Bob and I were in our motel room just outside of Baltimore, Maryland, where we had just discovered the possible location of Old St. Paul Cemetery, where the elusive signer Samuel Chase was buried. This was our 8th day of the trip and was scheduled to be one of the most ambitious days as well. We had the unfinished business to complete in Baltimore before we headed to our nation's capital in Washington, D.C., where we planned to come face to face with the original Declaration of Independence. So now, please sit back and get ready to watch a lot of videos from that amazing day. Enjoy the show. Bob and I left the Motel 6 at 6:30 a.m. and headed into downtown Baltimore. The overcast skies were a welcome sight, although we hoped it wouldn't rain. Even though it was our earliest start yet, the two of us needed no motivation as we were excited to be going back to Washington. After all, Washington was where our inspiration had begun back in 1976. Bob and I were so confident, maybe even a little cocky, that we could find Old St. Paul Cemetery that we decided to visit the Carroll Mansion first, even though we knew the historic home wouldn't be open to tours that early on a Sunday morning.
Yeah. We're heading into Baltimore on June 2nd. In front of us is the new Baltimore Oriole Stadium. Not completed yet. The 1983 All-Star Game, 1993 All-Star Game will be held there. Ballpark and stuff. Flag house should be right around here somewhere. That might be over there. It does. Carroll Mansion should be right on one of those corners. Lombard, you go left on Lombard. There it is. There it is. This is Carroll Mansion, the birthplace of Charles Carroll of Carrollton. Yes, I screwed up. It's not the birthplace, this is the place where he died. This is Carroll Mansion. Here in downtown Baltimore.
Built around 1811, this large house was purchased for $20,000 by Richard Caton, son-in-law of signer Charles Carroll. Since it was the home of Carroll's youngest daughter, Mary, the signer spent the last 12 winters of his life in this house. Charles Carroll, the last surviving signer, died here at the age of 95 on November 14, 1832. The signer laid in state in one of the rooms before his body was returned to Dorrigan Manor for interment. After a quick stop at the Flag House, which was just down the street from Carroll Mansion, it was time to once again begin our chase for Chase. Bob and I were back in the Omni as we navigated the one-way streets of downtown Baltimore. We drove past the Washington Monument for the fourth time in 2 days. It seemed as though we had crisscrossed downtown Baltimore so many times in 2 days, the vagrants began to recognize us and waved as we drove by. Roughly 10 blocks past the monument, we found the street named after the slain civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. Another mile, and we came upon the University of Maryland Medical Center, which was next to the stone-walled burial ground described by our 15-year-old lifeguard. We pulled onto Redwood Street, parked the car, grabbed our gear and documents, then stood in front of the gate to Old St. Paul's Cemetery. That was the moment when our jaws dropped to the sidewalk. This sign was posted on the gate. That locked gate wasn't going to keep us out, especially since we had invested so many hours and were so close to Samuel Chase, we could feel his presence. The brick wall along Redwood was about 8 feet high and appeared very difficult to climb. Out near the highway, the stone wall ranged from 10 feet tall at its highest to about 7 feet, which is where we chose to scale the wall. We had to hope no one would see us breaking into the cemetery and call the cops on us. The last thing we needed was to go to jail. I used Mongo's back as a step up to scale the wall, while Bob simply used his tremendous upper body strength to gain access to the burial ground. Once we were inside the cemetery, our search was not over. There were hundreds of ancient-looking headstones, none of which stood out as historically unique. We painstakingly read the names on each headstone, one by one for about 20 minutes until we finally came face to face with a 5-foot tall stone tablet inscribed with the name Samuel Chase. Our chase for Chase was finally over.
Once again, we're trying to find the gravesite of Samuel Chase. It's been a real chase to get this one done.
God knows we've been in this area.
Yeah.
Many, many, many times.
For Frank. Pleasant. Bath. Franklin.
Is that Franklin right there?
Yeah, it didn't look like you went through though.
I'm looking at the main ones up over here. You want me to stroll
Yeah,
back
East
there?
Franklin. Well, it looked like a dead end. So why don't you go up to the next left? Now we turn on the Monument Street, and we're looking at the famous Washington Monument of Baltimore. Geez, green light. Okay, now we'll take Franklin up to Martin Luther King. Green. Looks like the girl from what the hell's that show? Facts of Life, Tootie.
Oh, sorry about that. Trying to get these green lights while they're green.
Utah.
Looks like Martin Luther King's coming up. Go right on that or west or
We're
whatever.
going left.
Is it number 40?
It doesn't say. Let's go ahead and right. Well, if we get on Martin Luther King, we can turn around if need be.
Okay, this is right here.
Finally found MLK Boulevard. Oh shit. If we get to Pratt Street, we've gone too far. It should be around Baltimore or Fayette Street. But especially look for that, the hell's that name, that street that we walked down yesterday?
Redwood.
redwood. Should be possibly.
My kids said they drive by there all the time and they saw there's a fallen down wall.
Yeah.
So I would imagine they cruise on their bus down this street.
Once again, we're at Saratoga Street. So actually, it's kind of a scary looking cemetery, the kid said.
It'd be scary looking if it's not the right one. Maybe fans coming up.
There's a pretty new over there. Okay, it should be between Baltimore. I see a kind of a goofy looking wall up here.
Well, it says University of Maryland right here. That's the cemetery, it looks like. Yeah, it is.
That could very well possibly be it over there.
The kids at the pool told us Baltimore Street and a lot of this other stuff matches up.
Definitely a cemetery.
I'll turn around and park on that side street.
Now all we gotta do is get in there and find that sucker.
Always appreciate your help. Hear the lady honk?
Yeah.
Like to thank people when they help me out like that. It's got to be it because it fits all the requirements, including the pamphlet that we have.
Well, this is Redwood Street. It definitely would be it. Redwood.
We know we're going to have to climb the gate. Okay, there's got to be stopping along here somewhere.
Right.
Well, what time is it? 7:39. I think it said reserved parking 8 a.m. to something. Turn it around here.
Well, here we are inside Old St. Paul Cemetery. We had to climb the gate to get in. Not this fence here, but... And then we spent a good 15-20 minutes trying to find this Gomer. Here it is. Over there is the wall, which we climbed. We'll have to climb back out. Well, Mongo, I didn't think we'd ever find this one. Took 2 days of looking. Well, here we are. We snuck into the cemetery, and in the background, we hear sirens coming.
Police are coming.
So now we're going to walk out. Head for the wall to get out back to our car. One last look around. Okay, now we're gonna watch Mongo climb back out.
Watch for a little while. I'm going to put it on pause. And Tom's going to hop down to the sidewalk.
Well, the cops didn't get us this time.
Oh, missed the last part of
Long
that.
jump. Well, having successfully scaled this wall, we now head back to the car and it's off to Washington D.C. And we're parked way down there. Yeah, that's what we thought was going to keep us from seeing Sam. There it is, way in there.
Samuel Chase was a lawyer, a Maryland delegate to the Continental Congress from 1774 to 1778, a Maryland Chief Justice, and a U.S. Supreme Court Justice. In early 1805, the U.S. Senate began impeachment proceedings against Chase, but by March 1, 1805, the justice was acquitted and returned to his duties in court. His impeachment, however, was likely why Samuel Chase was passed over in favor of James Madison as Jefferson's successor to the presidency. Samuel Chase died in Baltimore on June 19, 1811 at the age of 70. Ironically, when we finally located the final resting place of the elusive Samuel Chase, the grave site was located roughly 100 feet inside the locked gate we had originally parked near. Within seconds after capturing this image of Bob near Chase's headstone, we heard the deafening sound of police sirens as they grew closer. Had someone called the cops and reported a break-in? By the time we made it back to the wall, we saw two squad cars with Baltimore's finest as they raced past the cemetery. Thankfully, the cops were headed elsewhere. Our visit to the grave site of Samuel Chase marked the 21st signer's grave of the trip, with only 35 left to find, and hopefully each would be easier than this one. Likely due to our haste to avoid arrest inside the cemetery, Bob and I did not take the time to locate the original burial place of Francis Scott Key, nor the grave of George Armistead, both of which were located somewhere within the stone walls of Old St. Paul's Cemetery. Missing those two burial sites didn't bother Bob and I because the chase for Chase had taken its toll on us, and we were anxious to get out of Baltimore altogether. The 35-mile jaunt to our nation's capital went by quickly. Once we had made it past RFK Stadium, the home of the Washington Redskins, we headed straight for our first stop in Washington, Congressional Cemetery, which was located a little over a mile southeast of the United States Capitol.
RFK Stadium right in front of us. The time is 9:22 a.m. We're on June 2nd.
$2,786 miles into the trip. Now we're going to be driving through across the 50-yard line pretty soon. been to Washington a lot of times. It's the first time I've ever seen the stadium.
Home of the Washington Redskins.
They'll be changing their name shortly because it's offensive. Native Americans. Okay, now we got a branching here, and I'm not sure what I should do.
I'd say go left.
Go left. So they're not telling me what I need to do. Not you, but the street signs. There's a guy more confused than I am. Of course he's got a problem, Mortimer. And go right, I imagine. See if we can see any street signs here. This is 22nd Street, so we got to be pretty darn close.
Crossing D Street.
Sorry, sir, you can't come in here. We gotta come in. And let's hope we can get a map in this place because there is a lot of graves in here. Maybe there's a map right over here. No. Oh, looks like there's a...
Driving through Congressional Cemetery, we have located the gravesite of Elbridge Gerry.
God darn, I can't believe that people can walk their dogs in the cemetery. Look at this. Jeez, there are dogs all over the place.
This place is going to the dogs.
I don't believe that.
Oh, I got that goddamn thing on there, yeah.
There is a happy dog frolicking in the grass. Well, I did know where it was, but no. There's that lady again. Don't worry, I'm driving. If Tom was driving, your pooches would be in danger.
Not the
He's not that good looking. The dog lady.
Any lady that lets a dog piss on a person's grave.
It's that one with the flame right there.
Okay.
This is great. I think we would have had our work cut out.
Okay, we're looking inside Congressional Cemetery. Panning around. This is the grave of Elbridge Gerry. You can see we're in a real lovely neighborhood, real good part of Washington. This is the grave of J. Edgar Hoover.
Elbridge Gerry was a merchant, a Massachusetts delegate to the Continental Congress from 1776 to 1781, and then again from 1783 to 85. Gerry was also an envoy to France, the ninth governor of Massachusetts, and the fifth vice president of the United States. Gerry signed both the Declaration of Independence and the Articles of Confederation. As vice president under James Madison, Gerry was the first to not run for president of the United States. This was due to the fact that he died in office and it was not a political decision. Elbridge Gerry died on November 23, 1814, at the age of 70 in Washington, D.C. In 1813, despite being old, in frail health, and poverty-stricken, Gerry accepted the vice presidency under James Madison. As vice president, Gerry was on his way to the Senate chamber when he was stricken with a heart attack and died. Anne Thompson Gerry, Elbridge's wife, lived until 1849 and was the last surviving widow of a signer of the Declaration. Although it was still fairly early in the morning, the grave of Elbridge Gerry would be the last signer's grave we would see that day. Our visit to the grave of Elbridge Gerry marked the 22nd signer's grave of the trip, with only 34 left to find. Bob and I took the time to visit the graves of J. Edgar Hoover, the former director of the FBI, and the March King, John Philip Sousa, who composed the Stars and Stripes Forever. But the two of us were chomping at the bit to leave that cemetery. We knew there were hundreds of sites we'd like to see in Washington, but we also knew we had to budget our time. We picked sites that were related to the Declaration of Independence first, then we could wing it after that. Roughly 20 minutes after we drove out of Congressional Cemetery, Bob had parked the Omni in the shade and within walking distance of the Jefferson Memorial. For the rest of the morning and into early afternoon, Bob and I were on foot as we hiked to the sites all around the National Mall, including a close encounter with the original Declaration of Independence.
Ramming speed.
Darn, I think we can park here.
Fire hydrant.
I mean, park here anyway.
Oh.
There's a lot of spots.
we're going past the Library of Congress. And there's the Turmobile.
There's a little bit farther.
There's Independence right here, isn't it? Yep.
Yep.
This is where he picked up that flag, isn't it? It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I think it is.
I don't remember what it's called. I believe 395 is the road that takes us across the bridge toward the Jefferson Memorial, isn't it? There's a Smithsonian building way ahead. Botanical gardens. James Garfield.
What's the James Garfield statue? Where? Off in the distance. There's James. Botanical Gardens.
There we go. Need him off the start, didn't we?
Yeah. And Copper.
Space Museum, I think. Yep.
It's some kind of stupid, but I can't see the Washington Monument.
It's obscured with all this other shit. Once we get past Air and Space, I think we might see. I hope there's not something going on. Look at all the stands along here.
I think it's just set up maybe for tourists.
Damn tourists. There it is. I didn't see it until it was pretty well hidden. Yep. Where's that?
And there's the big TJ Memorial. Can you see around me?
Yep. see. The sun's going that way.
Hey, we're on the side of the tidal basin. There's the Washington Monument. There's the Capitol. Here is the Jefferson Memorial. This is the duck getting his lunch in the tidal basin. Heading for the Jefferson Memorial. How healthy is the tidal basin? See the White House. Now let's walk up.
So you guys, and I'm gonna pond, hot house, Crawford's Pond, and we'll go fishing down there. We got a boat.
That's okay. But, Vâng.
Arlington Cemetery. Yes, jogging is a very frequent sight in Washington, D.C.
Please keep flying, moving slowly to the right. Come around as often as you like. Building up quite a long line right now.
The Jefferson Memorial was dedicated on April 13, 1943, the 200th anniversary of Jefferson's birth. This memorial has always made my heart beat faster as I climbed up its marble steps. I can never be sure if the rapid heartbeat was due to my admiration of Jefferson or just because I was out of shape. To Bob and I, Thomas Jefferson was larger than life. And once we made it through the throngs of tourists and into the interior of the memorial, where we posed near the 19-foot tall statue of the author of the Declaration, it reaffirmed our belief. From the Jefferson Memorial, the two of us hiked along the northern side of the tidal basin as we headed for the National Archives building, which was nearly 2 miles away. We made a brief stop near the 555-foot tall Washington Monument and for a few seconds pondered whether or not to go to the top like we had done in 1984. But as soon as we saw the line of people waiting for the elevator, a line that stretched for hundreds of yards, Bob and I began our long trek towards Constitution Avenue and the National Archives. First opened in 1935, the National Archives building houses original copies of the three main formative documents of the United States and its government: the Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. It also hosts a copy of the 1297 Magna Carta confirmed by King Edward I. Like we had done on Bicentennial Day in 1976, Bob and I walked past a few of the 72 Corinthian columns, through the 40-foot tall bronze doors, and into the rotunda for our date with history. The centerpiece of our admiration was within a couple feet of us. However, security prohibited Bob and I from putting our documents above the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, which were on display below the Declaration of Independence. At first, we were instructed to not stop and pose for photos in front of the big three, but after we explained our mission, we were allowed some leeway as long as we didn't interfere with the other tourists. The 215-year-old document appeared yellowish and was very difficult to read. Some of the larger words on the parchment, like the header and John Hancock's signature, were still visible. The text of the document, as well as most of the other signatures, were faded and almost totally illegible. For a few brief moments, Bob and I had stood at the same location where the signer's spirits had touched us some 15 years earlier. Our reunion with the historic document had totally lived up to our expectations. Although we didn't get quite as close to the document as we would have liked, the Declaration had once again left us speechless. The Declaration of Independence may have been faded, but it will never be forgotten as long as Bob and I have breath in our lungs and ink in our pens. Finished at the archives, Bob and I hiked over to 10th Street for a quick tour of Ford's Theater, the site of Abraham Lincoln's assassination in 1865.
Non, non, il a dit qu'on commençait par ici.
Okay, that's good.
I gave it to, you told me to give it to Uncle RJ. I gave it to Jerry's grandmother.
Why did they carry him over there? He died across the street. Why did they carry him?
Here's the house where Lincoln died. This would have been Abraham Lincoln's chair.
change. There you go.
Ford's Theater is one of the truly amazing historical sites in all of America. The two of us toured the interior where we walked in the footsteps of the actor and assassin John Wilkes Booth. We even had a great view of what Booth saw just prior to him pulling the trigger on his Derringer and snuffing out the life of America's greatest president. After a quick bite to eat at McDonald's, which was located about 3 blocks from Ford's Theater, Bob and I headed straight for the White House. We knew it would be impossible to get inside, but we still wanted to get a photograph of the president's home. After all, it was home to 2 signers, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. As we stood in front of the White House, Bob and I had to laugh because once again, renovation work was being done to a place we wanted to photograph. It was actually ironic because Thomas Jefferson had lived in only 3 homes most of his adult life: Monticello, Poplar Forest, and the White House. And each of those 3 homes were under renovation during our endeavor. After the White House, Bob and I had one more scheduled site to see in D.C. that pertained to the signers, and that was the memorial to the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. That memorial was located on a small island within Constitution Gardens and was a semicircle of granite blocks engraved with the signatures of all 56 signers. It had been overcast all morning until we stepped foot on that island. At that moment, the sun came out and shone like a beacon of freedom, symbolic of the brave men immortalized on that small island.
It's all been downhill after the Reagan. Yeah, the job was media. And see the little So you get a photo art? Okay.
The camel they follow.
Want me to lift you over the fence?
No.
You get up by the water fountain and see if the security guards will arrest you?
No.
We'll get pictures of it.
Coming from the Lord of glory, the King of the universe, Jesus Christ.
told George to meet me here at 3:30, so. I think they've got tour helicopter rides through Washington.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, that costs $10.
We're out here at the Signers of the Declaration of Independence Memorial. Yeah, work a big one up.
You're still eating it. Good eating.
Following our visit at the Signers Memorial where Mongo fed the fish, the two of us hiked over to another memorial that was dedicated by President Ronald Reagan on November 13th, 1982. Known by most as The Wall, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial is a 246-foot-long black V that's inscribed with over 58,000 names of service members who were killed or remain missing in action in Vietnam and Southeast Asia. One of the names etched into the polished black granite was Robert Louis Emery, an 18-year-old Army sergeant from Marine City, Michigan, who was killed on December 28, 1969, in South Vietnam. The reason Emery's name stood out to me amongst the 58,000 other names was because Bob's dad, Tiny Emery, worked with my dad at the Marine City Post Office. Tiny and his wife Helen had never been to Washington to see the wall in person, so I captured this image of the wall where their son's name was inscribed and presented the framed photo to the Emerys when I returned home from our trip.
Yes.
Oh, we counted. Can we take my picture for the wall?
Hey, ask someone to take a picture of both corners.
Something you can leave here.
Yeah, they used to let people use it, but had the person fall off this thing, so they shut them down all the way.
That way. This goes right back there. But, you know,
See the names written on there?
Still heavy-hearted from our slow walk past the wall, Bob and I stood at the eastern edge of the reflecting pool and gazed at the most impressive memorial of all in Washington, the Lincoln Memorial, which was dedicated by President Warren G. Harding on May 30th, 1922. The first time the two of us had visited the Lincoln Memorial was on Bicentennial Day, July 4th, 1976. I can still feel the chills I got as Bob and I climbed the memorial steps that day and saw the giant statue of Lincoln slowly appear before us. The 19-foot tall sculpture by Daniel Chester French shows Lincoln in contemplation. His hands are believed to be signing his initials A and L in American Sign Language. Seated in the memorial, Abraham Lincoln is depicted as worn and passive, gazing eastward towards the capital of the Union he saved.
Wait a minute, Ian.
It's not going narrow.
going down, then I must be out of it.
And if you're over there, you can see
Our late afternoon hike back to the Omni from the Lincoln Memorial was a long one, especially considering how far we had already walked that day. The car was hot when we arrived, but it felt great just to sit down for a few minutes. Mongo drove around the Lincoln Memorial and over the Arlington Memorial Bridge into Virginia for the last time on the trip. Thus far, in the past 8 days, we had visited some small cemeteries and some fairly large ones as well, but none were as famous or impressive as Arlington National Cemetery.
Yeah, we want to get to Arlington Cemetery.
There's Lincoln coming up almost. Yep. Is that it?
Yeah, this must be it here.
And too many bridges too close together. Too many gold statues.
Really?
reorganized this since the last time that we were here. Completely.
Parking's better or worse?
Just better. Got a humongous visitor center in here now.
Tourist parking left.
Somebody asking directions. So just pull in. You don't wait for permission. How about giving me a toot here? I want a toot. How about for me? Huh? Huh? Go ahead. Go ahead. Car park itself? Okay. I didn't even change this since the last time I was here. Which was last year. Now they're gonna make us pay for it. This where we park? Yeah, I guess we gotta go. $1 an hour. I liked it better the old way. Yeah, let's park in the shade.
Everybody wants to park in the shade.
Smile.
Con ba mà. Hai ngày trước sau hai ổng 2 ngày
mới đẻ 2 ngày trước. Quay đây anh hai được anh hai.
Let's check out the people in the crowd. That's a fairly patriotic looking shirt there.
Edward Kennedy, the Chappaquiddick, the car wreck, where the girl got killed. Edward Kennedy, he's still alive.
I know.
Убили его, да? Да. Он сперва попал в автомобильный транспорт.
Buried right over here at Dick Scobie, where the flag and the flowers are. I don't know if anybody's interested.
There was also
Pardon me?
Oh, he died.
He was one of the crew members on Challenger.
Ready? Hey! Praise, then, forward! 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 Ready? Hey!
gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The ceremony that you are about to witness is an Army wreath-laying ceremony to be conducted for Hillsborough and Madisonville Junior High Schools from Texas. It is requested that everyone remain silent and standing during this ceremony. All military personnel in uniform should render the hand salute, and all others should place their right hand over their heart upon the command, "Present arms." Thank you.
These are two of the three astronauts that were killed during the flash fire on Apollo 1. Buried side by side. We're looking at the grave of pilot Michael John Smith. He was a captain. He was the pilot of the Space Shuttle Challenger. Buried here at Arlington. Looking at the grave of Joe Lewis, buried here at Arlington Cemetery. And we're going to check out the most welcome sight of all. The drinking fountain. And the grave of Pierre L'Enfant. And now we're at the grave of our 27th president, William Howard Taft.
Totally exhausted from the late afternoon stroll through Arlington, Bob and I were happy to get back inside the Omni. Before we departed our nation's capital, however, we had one last stop we wanted to make, and that was at the Marine Corps War Memorial, otherwise known as the Iwo Jima Memorial. From the cemetery, the Iwo Jima Memorial was only about a mile away, but the circular roadway to get there made it seem a lot further. The Iwo Jima Memorial was dedicated by President Dwight Eisenhower on November 10, 1954. Once we were finally standing in front of the 78-foot-tall memorial, we knew the frustrating drive was worth the effort.
See all three? You can get it in one picture.
Should be able to get it all in from the memorial. No ball playing there.
I'll be the judge of that.
This is kind of a hodgepodge way to get around this.
I know, isn't this bullshit? Make a road to the damn thing. You can drive 6 miles in a circle to get to the thing. The circle continues. Oh, we went 87.3 miles to get to this thing. And it was a mile from where we were. Yeah, it's neat with the memorial.
Although the view from the Iwo Jima Memorial was serene and tranquil, Bob and I knew that tranquility wouldn't last. The route to our campground would take us back through the heart of D.C. Since it was early evening on a Sunday, the two of us had hoped that downtown traffic wouldn't be a problem, even though our first problem happened right away as we missed a turn and ended up in the Pentagon parking lot. Here are the final moments of our time in Washington, D.C.
Looking at the Pentagon.
We didn't intend to, but yeah. Got a damn tourist in front of us. Instead of driving, he's looking around. Probably lost too. Well, we got a whole bunch of signs here to choose from. Maybe we stumbled onto one here. If not, I'm just going to try and hang a right and go back the other way. Yep, he's another lost puppy. So what road do we have here, folks? Okay, Memorial Bridge, right here. Go over the bridge into town.
Yeah. Why don't you go over the bridge? I'll look for directions.
I don't mind going through town.
No, that's one city I never get sick of. We're going over the mighty Potomac River.
There's Parliament, Big Ben. Speed limit 30. That guy just passed me at about 55.
Yeah, we want to go on. We want to find New York Avenue.
Well, we did, but it's going one way.
Yeah, but maybe up here will go. Okay, this is the White House, obviously.
Try and get back to New York Avenue.
Yeah. Treasury Department. It's gotta be.
If I didn't have people on my ass constantly, I could do what we need to get done here. Okay, nobody there, nobody there. It's a one way. I can't tell.
Nowhere else, huh? Emergency bat turn, Robin. What's that Canadian flag flying up there for?
Want them to feel left out.
Yeah.
Thank God we're not doing this on a weekday. We'd never get out of this fucking town. I can't wait till New York City. New York City will be a lot of fun.
It was dark by the time we got very far out of Washington. Bob and I stopped at a Pizza Hut where we gorged ourselves on a Supreme Pan pizza. Then we drove the rest of the way to Millersville, Maryland, where a KOA was located. Once we had arrived, Bob and I set up our tent by flashlight, which wasn't a problem because we had become quite good at that. In fact, the two of us could get the tent completely assembled in less than 10 minutes, and that was by flashlight. It had been the most exhausting day of the trip, but one that will be memorable for finding Samuel Chase and then seeing the original Declaration of Independence along with the other sites in Washington. Trust me when I say it did not take long for Bob and I to fall fast asleep. Well, that's it for another episode. Bob and I want to thank you for hanging in there as this was a long show at over 2 hours and 15 minutes. We hope you enjoyed every action-packed minute as much as we did. In our next episode, Bob and I visit the graves of 4 more signers located in Maryland, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. But at one point during that 9th day of the trip, something unexpected happened that put the rest of our quest in jeopardy. What was it? You'll have to tune in to find out. Please do us a favor and subscribe to this channel and hit that like button below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode of The Spirits of Independence. So long.